Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. You're watching SEO Explained in 1 hour. My name's Syed. I'm one of the tech champions on the Digital Culture Network. Now, as we go through today, if you do have any questions, drop them in the chat below, and Mark, who's one of the other tech champions, will reply and add it to a document for us to answer later on. Now, again, just to let you know one more time, this will be recorded and posted on YouTube afterwards, and we'll send you a link as soon as that's available. Right, so let's get going. So what are we going to cover today? So we're going to deliver a 1 hour guide to SEO, front to back. We're going to look at everything from strategy and research all the way through to technical SEO and link building. By the end, you'll be able to make smart decisions, whether you're doing the SEO yourself, choosing to work with an agency or a freelancer, or if you just want to know more. Okay, so let's get into it. We've got a lot to cover. We'll crack on. So first question, what is SEO? Okay, we're going to look at strategy. So what is SEO? SEO is the process when you adapt and change your website to influence how you appear on Google or Bing, DuckDuckGo, Yandex, whatever search engine you use. Throughout today, I'm going to refer to Google purely because it's the biggest search engine with over 90% of market share, and also because, let's be completely honest, it's probably the one your users are finding you through. So SEO it's a tactic. Okay, it's not a goal of your organization. It helps you achieve your objectives and your goals. So it's a method of getting there. So let's say you're a theater, okay, and you want to sell more tickets. So this might be an objective which you have. You want to increase ticket sales by 30% over the next 12 months. Within that, you'll have some marketing goals. Okay, so these might be brand awareness, because the more people know who you are, the better. After all, the first time they see you, they might not buy from you because they have no idea who you are. Whereas the third or the seventh time, they're much more likely. You might want to grow what we call top of the funnel traffic. Now, I'll explain this term later on in more detail, but basically the idea behind this is about getting just sheer volumes of users to your website. Now, you might want to do this for a few reasons. You might want to do it to find out what kind of users convert better. So which ones do something you want them to do, like buying a ticket. You might want to just get newsletters. You might just want to get sheer eyes on the website. There's a few reasons why you want to do that. And then there's the kind of opposite to that, which is attract ready to buy customers, or bottom of the funnel. So these are people who are looking for what you're offering right now, and you want to attract them and get them to do something of value to you. So these are example objectives. There could be loads of other ones, but these are example ones that you might want. So SEO could help you achieve all three of these, okay? But we never ever start by thinking, planning with SEO. We never start by thinking about SEO, what do we do? Now, the reason for this, it's something which you'll often find a lot of agencies and practitioners do. They'll think, what can we rank for, rather than thinking, what are the marketing objectives? What happens is, if you do this, is you end up doing loads of hard work to rank for keywords, which end up not actually impacting your bottom line, or not having the effect that you want. So you do loads of great work, but then it actually doesn't do what you want it to do. So we need to make sure that when planning, we think, what are our marketing goals? So for example, it might be attract users from top of the funnel or brand awareness. And then we go from there. So what could we actually do with SEO? What strategies could we use? So we could say, okay, we're going to rank for low demand, high conversion searches. Now, this might not mean anything to you right now, but let me explain it. So low demand is things that don't get searched a lot. Okay, so no one's searching for them every month. But high conversion means that they're very likely to turn into something which is of value to you as an organization. So an example of this might be the search phrase, tickets to see King Lear in Corby. I don't know. It's not going to have a lot of searches because people searching for that exact phrase, there's not very many. But that person that's searching that, if you can answer that question, if you do that, what they're asking for, then they're really likely to do something that you want them to do. You might want to do the opposite, which is earn traffic from high traffic, low conversion. So this kind of matches into the second point on the other slide, where we talked about users who were top of the funnel. So these are ones that aren't going to convert, but there's a lot of them. There's a big volume there. Okay. Now, this, for example, might be people searching for the phrase "what's on Kobe" or "theaters in Kobe." Okay. So these are really, really much more vague, but there's much bigger number of people searching for them. And then the other thing you could do is build content relationships. Now, this is something we'll go into more detail, but the idea behind this is you want to build link and engagements for the future. So this is about future-proofing the website and building it up to be more powerful. But we'll go into that towards the end because that's a whole thing into itself. Now, these are just 3 things you could do. Okay, there's loads of different strategies. You might do a mix of these. You might do just one. But it just depends on what you find that you need to do throughout your research, which we're going to talk about in a second. Now, SEO does have pros and cons. Okay, it's not perfect. It's not ideal for every situation. It's really important to understand this so you know what the potential is and also the limitations. Okay, so let's quickly go through that. So SEO can attract searchers who are seeking your content or your products right now. So people who are actively looking for what you offer right now, because ultimately you're responding to their searches. It can control how your brand is seen in search results. So you can change the title, so the blue link that appears in Google. You're going to change the description, which is the text underneath. You can change the URL that appears. You can make yourself appear on a map. You can be an image search. There's loads of ways you can appear on search engines. So it's really, really great at making sure that you're giving the right impression. You can direct users towards things, searches and actions you want them to make, and then also results you want them to see. Because what you do on your website and how powerful your website is helps Google to make suggestions. Like when you do a search, it comes up with the auto suggest. They're from real websites often. And also at the bottom of the page where it's got the related searches or people also search for, they're all from websites. So you can help dictate what appears in them sections. What SEO can't do, okay, it can't grow search demand by itself. So let me explain this. If you're already ranking for a search term, okay, SEO can't create more demand or more searches every month. So let's say you are already top for tickets to King Lear in Kobe, for example. Okay, if only 10 people are searching that every month, it can't make it turn into 20 or 30. Okay, that's something completely different where you need to have maybe an offline campaign to grow demand and make everyone aware so they're searching it. Okay, a great example of that is you might have seen adverts before where it might be a car advert or insurance advert or something, and it says at the end, search, Volkswagen cars. That's them creating search demand. Okay, it can't build your brand. Okay, because ultimately it's responding to other people's searches. It can't do it by itself. Brand building is something which ads are great at, both offline and online, but SEO by itself can't build your brand. It can't directly convert users because most of the time when your users, all SEO can do is get them to the website. Your website is what's got the job of actually converting them and making them do something you want them to do, whether that's buying a ticket, signing up for an email mailing list, watching a video, signing up for an event, anything. But that's your website's job, not SEO. That being said, if your website can't satisfy your users' need, that does impact your SEO. But we'll talk about that in the next section. And SEO does not work overnight. Okay, it's really important we know this because we'll all get marketing emails saying we can get you to the top of Google tomorrow. It doesn't work. SEO is a long-term project. Okay, if you need instant results, SEO is not the marketing tool for you. You're better off looking at something like Google Ads or Bing Ads or paid social, that sort of thing. So let's have a look at the, an ideal lifespan of an SEO project, just to give you some idea of how long it would take for things to happen. Now, just to say this is an example, it won't be the same for all of you. Some of you might be quicker, some of you will take longer. Okay, it just depends. But just to give you an idea of how it works. So when you have a brand new website, you start at the very bottom left there, at the start of the arrow. Okay, you need to earn links and people need to visit your website and people need to go onto your website and have a great experience. And as these things happen, something that we call authority will start to grow in your website. Now, authority is just a measurement for saying how trustworthy your website is compared to others, okay? So generally speaking, the more authority, the higher you rank. So as users go to your website and use it, and then they share it, and more people link to it, your authority will start to grow. Now, as it grows, at around the 3 to 6 month mark, you'll start to find you start ranking for some keywords. Okay, now these generally will be really low search volume, maybe a bit longer, but there's still some rankings there. You'll start automatically happening. And then after about 6 to 9 months, if you keep the project up and you're nailing the fundamentals, which we're going to go through, you'll start to rank for more keywords, which are more competitive. And then maybe 12 to 18 months, when your website's really well known and it's getting links all the time and people are engaging with it, they're going onto it, they're viewing things, you'll start to rank for really competitive phrases. Okay. Now, as I mentioned at the start, this is just an example. It's going to be different for all of you. Okay. So that's strategy. Now, we're going to talk about keyword research here. So what we talked about there is why we should do SEO, if we should do it, okay, and what we should expect. So keyword research. So first of all, what is keyword? What's a keyword? Okay, first question. So keywords are the actual phrases that people type in to search engines, okay? They're also called search queries. Now, I prefer the term search queries because that's more accurate to what they are. Keywords to me means a lot of different things, but you'll see through here, I'll call them keywords, but just so you know what they are. So this is actually what people are typing in. So what is keyword research then? So keyword research is when we investigate the landscape. We investigate what are people searching for, how often are they searching, what motivates them, and then also, what can we do about it? What do we target? So, so why should we do keyword research? Sorry. If you don't know what keywords people are typing in search bar, you don't know what content you need to write because we don't know what people are looking for. So it's really important to do that to figure out what content do we need on the website. You also want to be able to understand the motivation of the users because someone searching for theatres has got a very different motivation, the reason for searching it. Someone searching for tickets to King Lear. Okay, it's quite clear the difference there. Tickets to King Lear, they want to buy something. Theatres, we really have no idea. So we need to do more research to understand their motivations. And then also, it's really important we do it because you might have competitor organizations or private companies who are in the same market as you who are targeting it. And if you're not, then you're missing out. Okay. So it's a real opportunity to make sure that you are heading in the right direction, you're on track. So what are the goals of keyword research? So first thing they do is they help us to understand search demand so we can craft better strategies. Okay. So what I mean by this is sometimes after you do research, you might find that people are searching for what we call brand queries, which is basically the name of a brand in the search, more than generic ones. So an example might be in London, you might find that people search for British Museum more than Museums London. Now, I have no idea if that's the case. I haven't checked, but I'm just saying, for example's sake. Now, a museum in London who wants to do SEO, they might say, okay, you know what? We'll never appear for British Museum because we're not the British Museum, but we can go out and we can build search demand for Museums London, maybe through offline ads or other things. But then let's just say the opposite could be true. So where generic terms like Newcastle Theatres might rank higher than the name of Museums Newcastle might rank higher than the name of a museum in Newcastle, like Discovery Museum. Okay, again, no idea if that's true or not, but a museum in Newcastle might go, okay, now we need to create content to answer those questions. Okay, because the demand's already there. We just need to respond to it. So there are two different strategies which would come out of the keyword research. Okay. So the other thing that we might do is, we need to do, not might, is we need to create a list of terms and phrases which can match to marketing goals. So when we're doing the research, we'll be picking out search terms that people are searching for. Now we need to create a list of them that actually match your goals. Now, they need to be achievable as well. So what we're going to look at now is 5 questions that we ask when we're looking at keywords. Okay, so we see a keyword, we will ask these 5 questions to understand if it's right for us. Okay. So first question we need to ask is is it relevant? I'm going to move my face because I'm in the way. Give me 1 second. There we are. So does this keyword actually reflect the content on the page? Okay, first question. So does this keyword have anything to do with what we've got? So if you're let's use the example of a theatre. If you're at a theatre and the keyword has to do with shoes, that's not relevant. So don't use it. That's quite an obvious example. But that's the question to ask first. Then we need to figure out, is it suitable? So what we mean by this is, does it align with your values? Now, a great example of this is the word cheap. Okay, so let's say your theatre isn't cheap. Okay, let's say it's not. But the top search phrase is cheap theatre tickets. Okay, if you're not cheap, you're not actually providing an answer to that user. That user's not going to have the experience because they're looking for cheap tickets. If you don't do that, then it's not suitable for your organization. Popularity. So are people actually searching for it? Okay, really important, because if no one's searching for a phrase that you're thinking of targeting, then there's no point because no one's looking for it. You're going to put all that work in for no return. Opportunity. So how likely is they actually going to achieve good visibility? So are you going to rank? So just to give an example, Museums London. If you put that into Google, it's probably loaded by massive organizations, both in the museum sector and private sector. Things like TripAdvisor and Time Out and all them, other aggregators and things like that. Are you realistically going to outrank them? If you think you are, great, go for it. If you're not, it's probably not a great choice of keyword. And then motivation. So how likely are the people who actually search for this to do something that you want them to do? Okay, as I mentioned earlier, that could be a sale, it could be email sign up, it could be anything. But how likely are they to do that? Okay, that's another question we need to ask. So that's how the 5 questions we'd ask, okay, to understand, whether that keyword is right for you or not. So if you've said yes to all of these and you said, yeah, that works, all works all around, that's a really good choice of keyword. So next, I want to just talk about a couple of things on theory, okay, just to talk a bit more about keywords, all right? So this graph here shows something called search demand, okay? Now, the idea behind this is this breaks down the different type of search that people make into 3 sections. So it's the fat head, otherwise known as short tail, and then chunky middle and long tail. Now, we're going to ignore chunky middle for now because that's it doesn't really matter if you know the other 2. So the fat head or short tail are searches with one word in. Okay, so things like theatres or museums or Theatres London. Okay, really short but really vague. Okay, these get the most searches, but they're super vague. Whereas the long tail, okay, is ones which are maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 words long. So these might be tickets to King Lear in Corby. Okay, much longer, but not very many searches, but it's much more specific. So why is this important to know? Okay, it's really important to understand because it matches into something else that we mentioned earlier, which was the funnel. Okay, so this is called the sales funnel. Now, whenever anyone goes through any decisions, then they go through this. So if I choose to have a sandwich, I will go through this. Now, I'm going to enter it at different points, but I'll go through this in some way. Now, I'm not going to go through this in super detail because it's a whole thing unto itself. But basically, the short tail, so the short keywords where people search for one word at a time, they generally are at the top. So in the awareness, that's where people are doing research. They're still looking for answers at a research level. The long tail, when you've added more words on, generally at the bottom of the funnel. Okay, so these are people who are ready to, they've already done their research. This person who's looking for tickets to King Lear, they've already done the research to understand, I want to watch King Lear, I'm in Corby, and I'm looking for tickets. So they've done all the top part, they're looking for the sale element. Okay, so that's long tail, that's why it fits down there. And that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at keywords. Sometimes long ones, which have low volume, are really powerful because they're people who are ready to buy. Okay. So number 3, we've created a list. We've went through those 5 questions and we've created a list of loads of keywords. Okay. Then we need to prioritize them. We need to order them in order of which one do we need to get done first, and which ones can we wait? We can say we can shove that off for a while. And then we need to match the keywords to pages on your site. So if content doesn't exist for a keyword that you found, we need to create it. If the pages aren't quite right, okay, or there's a page that you think, oh, you know what, that doesn't match any of the keywords, we need to repurpose it, we need to rewrite it, we need to improve it, okay, which we'll talk about later on about what the actual stages of that are. Okay. So we're just going to quickly mention something here, which is to say, this kind of links into the competition side of things, so how busy your web page is. So back in 2009, you might remember a search page looked like this. Okay, so it had a lot of text on it. Okay, a lot of those organic results, which are the blue ones at the bottom, not in the yellow box. They're the free results. They're the ones that SEO works on. Nowadays, search doesn't look like that. Okay, it's not made up of 10 blue links. It's got maps, it's got images, it's got shopping, it's got all of these different things. Okay, and a lot of those are their own type of SEO. So if you do a search for theaters, and you realize, okay, how do I, you realize, okay, how do I actually get that there at the top? Because maps are appearing at the top. That's something called local SEO. That's a whole different thing. So you might actually decide, you know what, we're not going to target this keyword on our website. We'll target in a different way, in a different form of SEO. And that's okay. But it's something to be aware of. There's lots of different ways of appearing on Google now. We're just going to look at this type, which is the blue links, okay? We're just looking at that for today. Okay, so tools to use that you might use to do this. There's loads out there, but these are some of the best ones in my mind. So Google Keyword Planner is by far the best. Okay, it's part of Google Ads. So if you are a registered charity, you can get access to Google Ads free through Google Ad grants. If you need to know more about that, search for it or drop us a line on our email address. There's Moz Keyword Explorer. Now, this is a paid tool from Moz, who have been around since the start of Google, it seems. And they've got a tool which will give you a lot of the numbers that you need for this. Ahrefs is another paid tool who do similar thing to Moz. SEMrush, they're a much bigger platform, but this does form part of their offer. And then Google Trends. Now, Google Trends is something you might have used before. It tells you the kind of percentage trends of like what months you have peaks and troughs in certain phrases. And there's loads more out there. If you just literally Google keyword tool, then you'll get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of results out there. But the best two in my mind is the Google Keyword Planner and the Moz Keyword Explorer. But if you don't want to pay, then use the Google Keyword Planner because you just have to sign up for a Google Ads account, like I said. Okay. So what should we end up with? So we should end up with something like this, like a table that looks like this. So you can see here, I've said, okay, the 4 that I've found. Now, this might be a list of 40, 50, okay? I've just done a small list here. So I've said, okay, theaters, it has loads of volume. These numbers are completely made up, by the way, because these are not realistic at all. There's 3,500 searches a month. Difficulty, now this is something which will be spat out by Keyword Explorer and Moz Keyword Explorer and also Keyword Tool, Google's one. They'll give you a difficulty rating. That basically tells you how competitive is it. So the other people who are on it, how powerful are they? Okay, how hard is it going to be for you to appear? CTR is click-through rate. Okay, so how often does that get clicked? Do free results get clicked when people search for that? Or do people go more for ads or maps? Okay. Value, this is something which you'll set. So this is how much do you value this for your organization. Okay, priority. So this is one I mentioned earlier, prioritizing them. And then SERP types. Now this one is one that's completely optional, but I like to put in because it helps me to know what else is appearing. So I'll do a search for theaters on Google and I'll just know what kind of results are appearing. So on that one, there might be organic, there might be paid results or adverts, which is a little green ad sign on it. Might be images that appear automatically in the search. There might be maps. So you can see I put maps on the second one, theaters leads. So you can see here, I've prioritized shows on at Leeds Playhouse as number 1. Now, the reason I chose that one is because, yeah, it's not got very much volume. It's only got 20 searches a month. But the click-through rate is really high, so it's really likely to get clicked on. Okay, I think it's not very difficult to rank for compared to the others. And also, from a motivation perspective, I know that people who are looking for shows on Leeds Playhouse, if I was Leeds Playhouse, I'd be like, yeah, that's really, really good for me to appear top of, because that person is looking for the information we can offer. The bottom one, you might notice, you might be thinking, okay, why is that third priority, not second? And the reason I've said that is because the volume is so low that theatres leads, I feel, is more valuable. Now that again is completely up to yourselves, okay, when you're doing this. But this is the table that will tell you, okay, these are the keywords we want to rank for eventually, and this is the order we want to do them in. Okay. Okay, so let's look at searcher satisfaction. So this is going to be a small segue, but we're going to look at this because it's really, really important. Now, in days gone past, this wasn't part of SEO. Okay, search engines now, especially Google, are really good at the fantastic understanding satisfaction of users. Okay, so let's say, for example, a user searches for theatre shows in Bradford. So we need to think, what questions could that user be asking? They could be asking for a list of venues. They could be asking for a list of shows, dates, times, accessibility options, food options, pricing, what to do, open times. There's probably loads more which I haven't even listed here because I haven't thought that far ahead. So the idea behind searcher satisfaction is when you're creating content or optimizing your pages, we need to be considering these questions. Now, it turns out that not a lot of websites do, which is why we have poor experiences. Okay. Now, this is something called user empathy, which is when we consider a search term and actually think, what are they asking for, and answer those questions. It's one of the most powerful ways to create content because we're creating content people want. So when we're creating content, what are our priorities then? So first priority is answer the user's questions comprehensively. So if we've thought, okay, we've got the search term like theatre shows in Bradford. What question are they answering? Does our content answer that question? Okay, that's the first piece. Second thing we need to do is make the page easy to use and quick, because it's always nice to use. Search engines find it easier to use it if it's quick and nice. We need to make it easy to navigate along the user journey. So buttons, having them clear. People like to know what their natural next step is. So if it's a tickets page, then having a clear button to say buy a ticket. And then lastly, the last thing we might want to think about is consider adding unique content. So what makes your website different to all the others offering that same content? What can you offer different? Okay, make sure you have that content on there. Because the last thing you want people to do is to click the back button and go back somewhere else. Now, this is something called pogo sticking. So this is now where search satisfaction is really important. Because what Google does, and a lot of other search engines now start doing it, is what they'll do is they'll monitor when someone clicks back and goes to another website. If your website repeatedly has that person as a searcher going to it, going back, they will drop you down the rankings. Even if you're the best website in terms of authority, if you're the most powerful website there, if your content isn't answering that question and people are continually leaving your page, they will push you down the rankings. It happens quite a lot now. And that's because search engines will figure out now that you're not providing good experience. Okay. So it's really important that we create content that answers questions for users. All right. So we've looked at choosing keywords. So now we've got a list of keywords, prioritized, listed, all that. And we've talked about how do we create good content. To an extent, we've talked about a little bit about searcher satisfaction. So let's look at on-page optimization, on-page SEO. So this is where we take the work from both of those bits and combine them. Okay, we talk about these are the bits that will help you make sure that you're able to get your page targeted the right way. So we need to be consistent. Okay, we need to use URLs, page titles, headers, and content in the same way on all your pages to make sure the text is readable and understandable. If you don't have full access to your CMS or your content management system, so that might be WordPress or Wix or whatever you're using, you probably will need full access to do this. If you don't, then get full access. It's a problem because there's a lot of things which you'll need to do for SEO, which you'll need access, okay? So it used to be the rule with on-page was stuff the keyword in as much as possible, okay? That used to be the rules. Don't do that anymore. It's not good practice. We've got a checklist now. Okay, so on page. So these are the 4 main page elements that you need to keep an eye out when you're writing a page. So you got the title tag, which is the bit right at the top. Okay, now that is the way I like to explain this is it's the front door, okay, to your website. So imagine your web page is a door, and Google sees that front door and they see the title and the plaque. It's the first place that search engines will be able to see that's what this page is about. Then you've got the URL. Now the URL is the address. So that's the bit where you can see it's highlighted in the kind of browny red. artcons.org.uk/guidance and resources/digital culture network. It's really clear what that URL is pointing to. It's really obvious. It's not messy. It's really simple. Then you've got the header, which is the main headline to the page. Now, again, search engines will read this and go, right, what's this page about? It's this. And then you've got the body content, which is the rest of the content. Okay. So basically what we need to do is the title tag should have your keyword in. The URL, if possible, should have your main keyword in. Your header should have your keyword in. And your body text should mention your keyword or synonyms of it. So other ways of saying it or similar keywords throughout it. Okay. Don't stuff it full. Just as long as it reads naturally and you just drop it in now and then, that's fine. Okay. Search engines are more than smart enough now to understand the context of a piece of content. So next up, you might want to look at something called schema. Okay, so for those of you who haven't come across schema before, schema is some standardized bits of code that you put into your website. And what it does is it helps search engines, especially, and other platforms like social media, to pull through content dynamically into their platforms. So you might have seen, if you've ever done a search for events somewhere, like Events Oxford or something, you'll see it's got like the list of the boxes at the top, which come up on Google. They're pulled through from schema, from websites dynamically, okay? It's a really great way of making sure that your content appears on search engines in a really interactive way. A great example is when you do cinema listings, you can actually see the listings in Google now. So pretty much all cinemas do it. But theaters do the same thing, that sort of thing. So it's a really good thing to look at. So just honestly, just Google schema.org and it's got loads on there. Don't ignore your images. Okay, so image search is really important, but remember, Google can't actually see them. Well, it can, but not in terms of search. So you need to label your file names. Now, the other reason this is important, so using alt tags and caption text, is for accessibility. Okay, the basic rule of thumb is if an image has a key piece of content, make sure it has alt text. So here's an example. So this is from the government's design system, their rules on it. So you can see the picture of Larry the cat. The image source, or the file name there, is Larry-the-cat. So that's clear what the image is. And the alt text is clear, it's descriptive. It's talking about the cat, where it is, what it's sitting on, and what it's wearing. They're the main elements of the picture, and that's what it's pointed out. So that's kind of the rules of thumb on how you write alt text. Now, if you're struggling to figure out whether or not you should add alt text to a piece of picture or not, because you're not sure if it is key content, this tool here is fantastic. I'll send you this in the afterwards in the email to follow up. But this is from the W3 consortium, who basically monitor the web and do all the standards on it. And excuse me. So this basically what this does is this walks you through it. So ask a question, you answer it yes or no, and it'll tell you whether or not to add alt text. So it's a brilliant tool for that. And then, sorry, one last thing before we move on. Basically, when you're selecting your keywords and you're creating content like what we've talked about here, keywords with similar intent should target one page. Okay. So what I mean by that is if you've got 2 search phrases which are really, really well searched for, and you think these are really good, but they're pretty much the same. So that might be, for example, tickets to shows and ticket to theaters, or theater tickets. They're very similar, okay, in terms of what people are wanting to do with it. You could put them onto one page. There is no real limit on the number of keywords per page. Okay, as long as they are all got the same motivation behind them. Okay, so don't put two things that are different on one page. You're going to really struggle to get them to rank. But you could have 10, 15 keywords as long as they're all similar enough that they fit into one page. Okay, in a natural way. Okay, so now we've done keyword research. We've thought about searcher satisfaction, and we've made the pages, the content as good as it can be, and we've nailed the on-page parts. All right, we've done that. Now we're to look at technical SEO, okay, which is where we look at the background. So technical SEO is a huge subject in itself, okay? We could talk about it for a few of these hour-long webinars. So if you do want to do that, let me know, and I'll see if I can create some. And so what I'm going to do instead, okay, rather than going through all of that, is I'm going to give you some of the big fundamentals, okay? So first, every crawlable page, so every page that's accessible to search engines should be unique. Okay, so the content on them should be different. Okay, they should all have a unique purpose, or they should give a unique experience with differing answers on them. Okay, so you might have page X, Y, and Z, and they're all different. They all do different things. They're all unique content. But sometimes, it is completely acceptable that sometimes you will have pages which kind of do the job of other pages as well. And there might be good reasons for them. So you might have page XY, which does a bit of X and a bit of Y, okay? You might have YZ, which does a bit of Y and a bit of Z. And you might have ZX, which does a bit of Z and a bit of X. Okay, so what could you do in this situation when we've just said that every crawlable page should be unique? So what can we do? We've got three main options, okay? First one is add something called canonical tag. Now, this is basically, when you click a link, it has a little tag after it in the code which says this page, the original version of it is this page, okay, the main version of it. So that kind of says, so this one you might say, okay, XY, but this page's real version is X. And that way what you're doing is telling Google, don't really pay attention to this page, pay attention to X instead, okay? YZ, you might decide, okay, we don't need this page, so just delete it. That's also a perfectly good answer. But there might be a valid situation as to why you have them, okay? So that's why that's not always the answer. And then ZX. So let's say you've got a page which has to stay there, but you don't want to canonical it for whatever reason because it's it's a page which isn't the same as others, but it's not unique content and it's just not enough, or it's behind a login. Okay, so you don't want search engines to be able to see it. You might do something called block robots. So what you're doing there is you're stopping Google and other search engines from being able to see that page exists. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can either put it in the code on the website, or you can edit a file called the robots.txt. But that's something which, if you've got web developers, they can do it for you. Okay, it's quite straightforward. To be fair, all three of these options, something web developers can do for you. Okay. The next thing, pages should be fast. Okay, they have to be fast to load. And they should be able to load in a complete text-based browser. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. One, fast pages are great for users, and also page speed is a really important ranking factor. Okay, so search engines will actually rank you, especially Google, based on your page speed. If you've got a slow speed, they will push you down because it's a bad experience. Now, the text-based side of things is Google's bot, the crawler that goes around and reads stuff, doesn't respond too well to things like JavaScript or like Ajax or different coding which makes your page more interactive, or Flash. Okay, all your main content should be visible on a text-based browser. Okay, so you can actually download these from the internet, simulators and things like that, but make sure that your page is visible. The other reason this is great is for accessibility, because a page that works really well on a text-based browser will be fantastic for a screen reader. Okay, because it's so simplified that they don't respond very well to JavaScript and things like that. And it means that a user who's using a screen reader or assistive tools will really find it much easier to navigate your website. We should have no thin or duplicate content. So thin content is when you have a page that has a bit of text on it, but it doesn't really say anything, or you've got a bit of text somewhere that doesn't really do anything useful. That's what we call thin content. Or duplicate content. It's very similar to what I mentioned earlier. You should have no direct copies of content anywhere on your page, on your website, sorry. Valuable content should be accessible through just 3 clicks, okay? So what we mean by that is use what we call a shallow link structure. So what I'm saying is from anywhere on your website, a robot or a person should be able to get to any page which is important in just 3 clicks. One of the easiest way to do this is have something called a sitemap file. Now, you've probably seen these on websites where you scroll to the footer and it says sitemap. That's basically what that is that so that search engines can click on that and get to pages easily. That's all it is. Users can use it as well because it is fully user accessible. Pages need to be mobile optimized. Okay, we shouldn't have separate mobile sites anymore. Everything should be responsive. So responsive means that when you get your browser and you don't take that maximizing, you drag the bottom corner, big and small, the page should change dynamically. Okay. What this means is that everything that's featured, every feature that you have on your desktop site should be available on the mobile site and vice versa. Okay. It's more important than ever now, especially because Google have actually started 3 months ago, actually, they've started crawling websites as mobiles. So if you've got a fantastic desktop website, but awful mobile website, they're going to see the mobile version first. Okay, so it's more important than ever getting your website mobile optimized. And then we need to use redirects correctly. So this is something which is quite technical, but a lot of web developers get wrong. Okay, it's just one of those things. So if you've got a page that's moved permanently forever, you have to use what's called a 301 redirect. Because what that does, that tells Google this content has moved forever. Okay. If the page is dead for any reason, you should use a 404, which tells Google this page is dead. Now, to be honest, most of the time I would try and make it so any page which is dead, that link redirects to the next best relevant page. If you ever need to take a part of your website down for maintenance, like let's say you've got a members area and you need to take that down for maintenance, or an events page, or a booking system, you would do something called a 503 redirect. That tells Google it's down for maintenance. It's not gone, it's not dead, so don't delete it. But it's just down, it'll be back soon. And then if everything's okay, you use a 200, okay? Any others, there might be good reasons for them, but generally speaking, we should be missing them out, because any tool that you use like Moz or any other kind of crawling tool, they'll all tell you this is a big problem, because Google and search engines don't respond very well to them. Your website needs to be secure. Okay, so if your website doesn't have a security certificate, you can get them for free now, which is the SSL or TLS. The way you can tell is if you go on your website, in Chrome especially, at the top left, just there next to the address bar, it'll say not secure if it's not. Or it'll have a question mark, or it'll have a little, or it's got a padlock if it's secure. The reason it's important is because it's really good for user trust. Users trust secure websites. And also, Chrome, especially, and other browsers have started to do this that you can see on the screen. So when it's not secure, whether or not the website is trying to pull your details or not, it'll spit up a warning like this, where it'll say the connection is not private and the user has to click advanced and then proceed. Most users, when they see that, won't do that. They'll just go back and not bother. So it's really important to get that in place. And then domain website structure. So we need to make sure we've got a good structure to the website. So one website or one domain is better than having multiple websites. Okay, so don't have theatresnewcastle.com, theatresleeds.com, theatres, why not just have theatresnorth.com and have them all on one website? Okay, subfolders are better than subdomains. So a subfolder is when you have website.co.uk/things. So the slash is the folder. A subdomain is when you have it before the dot. So that might be things.website.co.uk. Okay. Things.website.co.uk is treated by search engines as a separate website to website.co.uk. Okay, so if you've got event.co.uk museum.co.uk, that events website that you've got is treated as separate to your main website. So that means if your event site is getting loads of really good links to it, because events get linked to a lot from other organizations and media outlets and things, your main website is not getting the benefit of that at all. It's not seeing the benefit. So it's always better to have subfolders. They're much better. And then lastly, folders are better than having a really long URL. So this kind of links into the one above. So having something where it says website.co.uk/things/my favorite things is better than having website.co.uk/things my favorite things 246. Okay, just structure it nicely. It's easier for users and it's a lot easier for search engines to understand that page. And then last but not least, in terms of this, using breadcrumbs. So if you've got a really big website, you might have seen that on some websites you have breadcrumbs along the top where it's got home and then whatever category in and then what subcategory and then the page name. That's really good for search engines to understand where they are on the website, because a lot of search engines will actually pull that through, especially Google will pull that through into search and it looks really nice. And it's really good for users as well. Now, there's loads more we could talk about, but as I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of this. All right, there's a whole bunch more stuff you can go into in technical SEO. Okay, so we've talked about technical. Now we're going to look at links. Now, why are links important? Okay, so when someone performs a search on Google, Google has to display a result. But how does it do that? So the way that it was done historically, by, I don't know if you remember, but Alta Vista, Ask, Jeeves, stuff like that, they were really bad. And the reason for that is because all they did was they looked at the number of times that search phrase appeared on the page. So if you had the search phrase of Theatres Newcastle, all I had to do to rank for that was write Theatres Newcastle, Theatres Newcastle, Theatres Newcastle, Theatres Newcastle, over and over and over and over and over again, and I would rank at the top. My page is rubbish. It's an awful, awful page, but I would rank at the top because for those search engines, I was the most relevant. And that's why search wasn't very good. Google does things a bit different, though. Okay, they use links. Now, what they do is they use something, they use basically the idea behind the world of academia, where in the world of academia, if you write a paper, the more citations you get, the more authoritative it is. It's the same here. The more links your website has, the more authority it has. Remember I mentioned authority with a measure? This is where it is. So this is the more links you have, the more authority. So if you get a link from the BBC and my website and your best mate's website, they all help towards your authority, okay? But not all links are equal, okay? Links from big, trustworthy websites are worth more than links from new, untrustworthy ones. So if I set up a blog tomorrow called Syed's Amazing Blog, and I link to your website, that one will be worth nowhere near as much as a link from The Guardian or the government website or a university, because they're big, well-established websites, okay? So the more you have of them, the better. But it's hard to get those links because you need to be really good quality and well-established. So there's the kind of balancing act there. And the other thing that I want to mention is often people will ask, in terms of links then, if I need to just get it from big websites, can't I just get it from social media? Just do a post on Twitter with a link to my website. It's from Twitter, there we go. But what social media do, and a lot of actually big media companies like the BBC and the Guardian and things like that, they actually do is they put a little bit of code on the end of their links called a nofollow. So what that does, that says to search engines, yeah, we're linking to this website, but we're not approving them editorially. We're not saying that we want you to rank them better. So it's just a little thing there. Not all big websites will actually help you, unfortunately. So there are a few ways you can get links, okay? There's content outreach. So this is creating content which will be shared to publications link it. This is basically digital PR. So you produce the content or a tool, and then you measure people who will talk about it and link to it and talk about it. Okay, that's kind of the bread and butter approach for SEO. Then you've got something called link reclamations. So what this is monitoring and identifying all links that don't exist. So this might be because you've moved website This might be because they've taken the link down, or they never put it up in the first place. So all you do is you contact whoever the website is, and you say, can I have my link back? Can you correct this? The next one might be directories, groups, cohorts. Now, these are like local authorities, events, conferences you might be helping to run. It might be local tourism sites. It might also be local kind of business listings. So it might be kind of local female-led businesses. There'll be directories for them. If you're a female-led organization, you can get on there, and there you got a link. And then the last one is something called competitors as links. Now, this one's a bit more complex and generally is one that you would need a specialist tool for. Basically, the idea is that you would see what competitor 1 and competitor 2 have had written about them and then replicate it. So what will happen is you would plug those competitor 1 and competitor 2 names into something like Moz, okay, which is one of the tools I mentioned earlier, and they'll tell you what sites link to both of them, but not you. Then you reach out to those sites and get them to link to you as well. Okay, so we've went through quite a lot there, all right, and that is the run through for now. Okay, now I'm going to move over to the questions board, which Mark has fantastically been sending. If you do have any more questions as I'm going through these, ask them, please. Okay, and just ask me if there's anything else you want me to cover. Okay. So, question 1, let me just quickly pull it up 2 seconds. Question 1, do you need to add keywords that already appear in the page copy or just related keywords that don't already appear? So this is when you're choosing keywords. So when you're doing keyword research, you should really almost approach it from the point of view that you haven't got any keywords at all. Okay. Now the reason for that is to make sure that when you're doing that search, you're not influenced by what you've already got, because you'll be open to changing. Okay. So don't worry about what's already there. Just look at what's the opportunities out there, because you might need to rewrite a page anyways. How do you know what are the most important keywords that people use to search? So when you do a search in a tool like Keyword Tool, for example, Google Ads Keyword Tool, Keyword Planner, sorry, what'll happen is it will suggest different keywords that people are searching for. What you can then do is use the different stats that it gives you, like the volume, the difficulty, as I mentioned with that cycle, to basically understand which one fits you the best. Okay, but those tools will actually suggest, they won't just suggest like the one that you search for, they'll suggest variations on it, they'll suggest synonyms, they'll suggest other ways people are searching for that same thing. Is there a maximum number of keywords? Do they have to be written in priority order? So maximum number of keywords for the entire website? No. Don't think about a maximum, because that's where the prioritization comes in. Because after you've got your list, you might have 50 in the list, you might have 100. Okay. Then you prioritize them, and then you can decide which pages they go on. And if the ones that are low priority don't happen to go on the website, then you can make a decision later on whether or not you want to add them or not. Question, we don't have a box office, so we'll always need to link up to a venue, etc. to buy a ticket. Does this mean our SEO will always be bad? No, not at all. Because your website, your action on your website is to get someone to click on the link to go to that venue, that's your goal. That is your goal action. So as long as you're doing everything around that, that's fine. Okay. When I mentioned earlier about sales and tickets, all I meant really was getting someone to do something you want them to do. So in your example, your goal, your thing that you want people to do is click a link to the venue. Keywords, useful about keyword planner. On keywords, how does this work with content? Example, we show exhibitions, but we don't put exhibition in the page title, put the title of the exhibition. Okay, so events and exhibitions is a one that you can't really do SEO for, okay, unless it's such a big event that people are going to search in the name. But this is what I was talking about earlier. You can't really build brand awareness through SEO. That's where other marketing channels, that's the words I'm looking for, come into play. I've lost where I am. Follow up. The question, I was going to thought the visitor would be more likely to search art exhibition, local, or art Arab culture, for example. Okay, so yeah, so if someone was to search for art exhibition local, okay, then what will happen is, as long as your page talks about local art exhibitions and then has the name of the locale, so if it's, I don't know, Wigan, for example, then what Google can do is it can figure out where that user is and give the relevant information. So as long as your page talks about where you are and that your local art exhibitions, you can appear for those. But like I said, that's a keyword in itself. If you find out that people are searching for that. Follow up. What's on page is drawn for events page, like a diary, tsunami, an intro. Maybe that changes into. Yeah, absolutely. What is a really common thing to do for that? If your page is like a listing, so it's got events or products, put the blurb at the bottom so it appears below whatever the listing is, because ultimately no one's ever going to read that. That's just for search engines. But it's good if it's good content and it talks about it, stick it at the bottom. That way it won't push your events down. Okay, but it puts that content there where it needs to be. I think Mark is typing. Is there another question? One moment. All right. Any books or other resources to learn more about SEO? Now, I'll be sending you through a link to a couple of websites which I use to keep up to date with what's going on in the SEO world. And also, they've got some really good links out to guides and things. And also, I'll be publishing more guides on our platforms as well. So to keep an eye out on that. So get subscribed to the newsletter if you're not. Okay, you can do that on the Arts Council website. Go to artscouncil.org.uk/DCN. You can sign up there, or follow us on Twitter, or just drop us a line, and we can get you linked up with myself or one of the team to keep up to date. All right. So if that's all, like I said, I will send you a follow up with some resources and any links that I've linked to in here. I believe there are some more webinars coming up. There's loads actually. The next one I think is on, I want to say Instagram, but that might be wrong. But I'm sure Mark will put a link in the chat for you all. If there's anything else that you want us to cover, let us know. You should all get a survey after this, just asking how you found it and also what subject you want us to cover next. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.